Hey guys, it's the Casual Woodsman. Today I'm coming at you with another knife review. This time around it's going to be the Ontario Ranger Series Ranger Assault Knife, or the R.A.K. So stick around, we'll talk about this knife here coming up. Alright guys, so one of the things that I probably have a lot of video footage to show you is knife reviews. One of the biggest things about me is that I'm a big knife collector and I'm a big fan of large survival and combat style knives. It's just one of those little quirks about me, having been in the Marine Corps and relying very heavily on my standard issue K-bar. I kind of developed a love and an affinity for these big, gigantic combat and survival knives. So today I want to talk a little bit about the Ranger Assault Knife. Now the Ranger Assault Knife is a little bit of a different knife from some of the others that I've seen on the market. It's a pretty unique knife, both in geometry and ergonomics and just overall design. Personally, I haven't seen a whole lot of other knives like that out there, so it's going to be interesting to see what this knife can do. We're going to go back to the old stump out there in the yard and show you a little bit of what this knife can do. Okay, so first things first is we're going to look at the overall design of this knife. Now this knife is, like I said, it's really different from a lot of the other knives that I've owned and collected over the years. This particular design of knife is more designed for being used as a combat or tactical knife, although it still does really, really well as a survival knife. This particular model here, I've already modified it. I have been using this for a while. Normally it comes with a pommel here that is really pointy. It's actually a perfect triangle. So what I've done with this is I've ground it down to more of a trapezoidal design, much like the Becker knives. And I have brought down the finger guard here, which used to stick out maybe another 1/4 inch further out. So overall I've streamlined this knife design. I personally don't have a lot of use for a super pointy pommel, but it's still good enough to be a glass breaker or some kind of non-lethal striking implement. So these are the modifications that I've done to my personal knife. So let's see what kind of stuff this will do in a survival or woods environment. So as is the case with your standard YouTube review, the first thing we're going to do is to see how well it'll baton through this piece of wood right here. Now this wood is still somewhat green. It's not very dry. It's not very well seasoned. So it may be a little easier to split than something else that's been sitting around for a couple of years. But it is a mulberry. Mulberry is a lot denser and a lot harder than people sometimes give it credit for. And we're going to see what this knife does against a pretty sturdy piece of mulberry. It's about as thick as my forearm or my wrist here. Let's see what we can do with this. Now the baton that I've been using is a piece of mulberry also, and this thing has been through hell and back. This kind of shows you how hard mulberry can be. Alright, so there it is, batoning through a piece of mulberry. Really just kind of plowed right through that, and it doesn't seem to have taken any kind of damage either to the edge of the blade or the spine itself. So really good job on the batoning on this. Alright, so this is another piece that has been sitting out there for a while. It's already been split into a 1/4 log, but it might be a little harder considering it's been dried, or it's been drying for a lot longer time. So that one was definitely a lot harder to baton through. It was drier, so I can definitely feel that resistance a lot more. Was still able to baton through that piece of wood, no problems. All right, let's take a look and see how well this thing can slice. Again, using some of that old dry pieces of wood that I've had out here. So just a little bit of note on this wood. It has been dried out. It's been seasoned for about a year and a half maybe. But we've had some rain here in West Texas, so it's a little damp on the outside. Let's see how well it does even through that. One thing I love about this knife is that oversized finger choil here, right behind the blade in front of the handle. And that, even with gloves, that's a great little area for you to choke up on the blade and get more control for doing things like slicing, feather sticks. You could see the curls coming off of this stick. Just really, really fine, really good looking curls. See, nice little slicer. It'll be great for you to prepare some firewood and prepare some kindling out at a campsite or on the trail. The edge is still really good for slicing. Let's take a look at the same kind of ability, but using fatwood this time. Fatwood is notorious for being difficult to slice and to carve because it is so hard, and the resin in it is so almost glassy and crystalline that it doesn't really want to curl all that much, but we'll see what this one does with it. So immediately I'm just really impressed with how well this is cutting through some of this fatwood. And this fatwood, as you can see by the color, is really glassy, really hard, so full of resins and sap. And this R.A.K is just slicing right through it like cheese. So there you go. Let me show you. Okay, so here you can see just how fine some of those shavings off this fatwood are. Really nice curls. This knife cut through it without any problems. Like I said, fatwood's really difficult to carve, so I'm really happy with what this has done. All right, another test that I want to do is cutting through this 550 nylon paracord. Just sliced right through that without any problems. Let's triple that up, see how well it does. So this is actually 3 loops of 550 paracord. Sliced right through them, no problems. It's like butter. So really nice edge on this knife right now. Now, this knife is usually not designed to chop really kind of at all. But just for the sake of the complete review, let's see how well this does in chopping. Alright, so in chopping, it's actually not as good as I was expecting it to be. Part of it is just the handle design. There's not really a whole lot of real estate for you to grip onto that. And choking up on this choil here while chopping isn't really conducive to do a proper chop. You really want to reach further back on that handle to give you more leverage. But even with that, it's doing a decent job for a 6-inch blade. And in a pinch, I'm pretty sure you can get through some of these pieces of wood without a problem. So all in all, still doing a pretty good job. All right, let's see how well this thing does with notching. We'll do some cross batoning on this little piece of wood right here. Again, it's really nice to be able to choke up on this blade. just so you can be able to do some of this close-up work and maintain a lot of control while you're doing that. All right. And there you go. Nice little notch. All right, guys, so that is the Ontario R.A.K, the Ranger Assault Knife. Just a really quick review. There's not a whole lot more that I can say about this knife that you can already find in other reviews online and even the Ontario Knife Company website. But this is a surprisingly good survival knife for woods and camp use. The original design of this is as a tactical or combat knife, and you can completely see the design philosophy behind this. It is a good piercing or stabbing weapon. It's a good thrusting weapon also because of that really symmetrical spear point design. But also, when I originally bought this, if I had left the pommel exactly the way it was, super pointy in that really sharp triangle configuration, the way the choil is designed, it's actually designed to be used as a hammer grip and for you to be able to use that as a striking implement. So ironically enough, what my determination is on this design is that the choil wasn't really meant for you to choke up on it for more woodsy and bushcraft tasks. This was actually designed for you to be able to grip it this way and give you the clearance and the reach needed to use that non-lethal striking pommel as a weapon. But nevertheless, it still works really well for some woods and camp use. Me personally, I like the length of it. It is a 6-inch blade officially on paper, about 6.5 inches all about, but you lose a full inch of that in choil right here. So your cutting edge is about 5.5 inches. Nevertheless, I do like the size of this. It's a good camp knife. It's a good woods knife, and it's still very controllable. It's still very wieldy, and it doesn't feel awkward in your hand at all. Now, for me personally, the only complaint that I have about this knife as it comes from the factory is the sheath. Ontario sheaths, they're not bad sheaths, but depending on how you're going to use your knife, they can be hit or miss for your particular use. I do like the Ontario sheaths if you're going to be using them tactically. The MOLLE and PALS compatibility of them are great for attaching it to an LBE vest, some kind of MOLLE PALS system on a backpack maybe, or anything that's more tactically oriented. The sheaths are great for that. For woods use, however, I highly recommend you get something a little bit different. I personally don't mind leather, but my favorite is actually Kydex. And as you guys know, I do make my own Kydex sheaths. I'm left-handed, so it's very difficult to get something that's already commercially manufactured. But I like the Kydex because of the way that you can just secure it in there. Nice little lockup, and you're not gonna lose that knife even when you're moving around out in the woods. I do prefer a dangler, as you could see, with a nice sturdy leather belt loop on here. But again, no rattle, no, I mean, you hear a little bit of rattle, and that's just the button snaps on this. But this blade is in there really secure, but it's not difficult to remove from the sheath what's in there. So once again, guys, thank you so much for watching this review. I really recommend you guys go out and try one of these knives if you can find it. Fortunately, the R.A.K is very much available still from the Ontario Knife Store or other distributors online. Sadly, the vast majority of the Ranger series blades are no longer being manufactured and are now discontinued. As you guys know, it's kind of my grail quest to find more knives in that series, especially something like the RD series, the RD7, RD9. But the R.A.K is still very much available. If you guys have a chance, go out and try one of these. Very good knife, you're not going to regret it. And once again, guys, thank you for sticking around, watching a really quick blade review. I'll have a lot more blade reviews for you guys coming up, hopefully. And in the meantime, you guys stay safe out there in the wild. Always be prepared. Casual Woodsman out again.